We humbly request that we treasure us to true wisdom. We dedicate the merit of reciting the Dharani of the Great Compassionate One to Shakyamuni Butsu and celebrate his supreme enlightenment. May we fulfill the obligations to the four benefactors, benefit all living beings throughout the free realms, and help all beings attain perfect wisdom. Oh, Buddha, throughout space and time, all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita. Namo Karatando Dorayaya, Namo Hariya Bodhisattva Shifuraya, Bodhisattva Boya, Moko Sato Boya, Moko Gyari Vijaya Sahara, Aishuddha Noto Shama Moshikiri, To Emo Oriya, Moyo Kencha Shifura, Nian Kishinza Fuji Shokan Jorai Funzo Dai Hemon Bokai Jinsho Soshisho Hinboni Kohon Shihon Soshika Jirai Dai Osho Kaisan Deji Yoshin Tai Shitsumon Zenzu Tai Osho Kaka Jojo Zoyan Jiho Sanshi Ishi Shifoshi Sambo Samokosa Moko Hoja Horoki Namu Karatan no Horaya Namu Horiya Hoyo Gercha Sheforaya Hoji Sato Boya Moko Sato Boya Moko Kyaro Jikaya Ensahara Aishutan Om Shama Moshikiri Hori Mo Horiya Hoyo Jiche Forari Hoho Namo Nora Kete Kere Moko Hodo Shame Sabo Hodo Josho Ben Joshori Sabo Sato No Mokonya Mohate Jodo Jekoe Oboryo Kiryo Yashikara Shikiri Moko Koji Sato Sabo Sabo Mora Mora Mori Mori Riko Riko Yo Yo Kemo Toyo Toyo Hojaya Chemoko Hojaya Shetora Tora Shiri Sheforaya Sharo Sharo Momo Amora Ocheye Yoga Yoga Shenma Shenma Ora Samfara Shari Haza Haza Ora Shaya Kulyo Kulyo Ora Kulyo Kulyo Kiri Sharo Sharo Shara Shara Solyo Solyo Ojeya Ojeya Ojoya Ojoya Vichareya Nora Kenja Shaya Shanya No Oya Mono Somo Koshidoya Somo Oko Shidoya Somo Koshidoya Kashaparaya Somo Ora Kenja Somo Ora We humbly request the illumination and protection of all beings wise and holy. We have gathered together reverently before the spiritual beings of earth and sky, recited the Dharani of the great compassionate one. We humbly offer the merit as gain in praise of all beings great and small who bring peace and protection to this place of practice. May we have harmony in the Sangha, peace both inside and outside, and freedom from all hindrances in the way, and may all beings throughout the Dharma realm equally attain complete and perfect wisdom. Oh, Buddha, cross space and time, oh, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita. The Dharma incomparably profound and explicit as rarely met with heaven and hundreds of thousands of millions of karmas. We are now permitted to only see it, hear it, and accept it. May we awaken to the depths of mind of Tathagata. This is commentary to the Sutra, Vimalakirti Sutra. And for sutras, there are some rules. In 9th chapter of Vimalakirti Sutra, it was though about the central point of the entire sutra, the mystery of not two, which is emphasized throughout the text, and for this chapter as well. And from here on, how that mystery is taught is what is being expressed. The mystery of not two, the mystery of the non-dualistic, where that which does the seeing and that which is being seen are not two but one. There is no separation, nor dualism. Hearing a bird's voice or a bell sound without any concept about them, but at one with the sounds. And this is the truth of the Buddha Dharma. This is the way of expressing the Buddha. When we have nothing in mind, we are awakened, caught on nothing. But also, we cannot think of nothing whatsoever. And not with an idea of how empty and wise I am. Rather, that the society is me. So there is no idea about having to liberate society and help resolve pain, because then it happens of itself. It's like when parents see their children sick. They feel their child's sickness deeply. They find a doctor, and the child recovers. The parents are gratefully revealed as if they themselves have been cured. And this is what is actualized in mysterious way of not to. The wisdom is something with which we all are endowed without exception. It's not about trying to understand this way of doing things or having a mental capacity, but by becoming this state of mind oneself. The fragrance represents the highest quality of our senses. This is why we have incense always being offered in the Buddha home. Because like God, Buddha is not a form, but rather a state of mind. And that is why in Japan also there is a path of the many different kinds of paths such as tea or flower arranging. There is also a path of incense. We first see things and then we smell. And in this great joy, there is a deep understanding of the very important quality and value of fine fragrance. These words I don't know in English, but the words in Japanese of the finest fragrance is some of them. Kiara, Jako, Jinko. These are all very high level entertainment to be smelling these fragrances and distinguishing which is which. To see things, we can imagine their worth when we see their forms and we see what their substance is. But for a fragrance, it is hard to know what combination of fragrances would be being burned to experience so deeply their fragrances. And this is, of course, indeed a very high class hobby. When we are first born, our smell is what is first. Later, we continue and also it affects our ways of eating as well. Today, we have so many produced things, so many things that have been hybridized and made in different combinations so that it is hard for us to know any longer what is the pure natural fragrance. For example, humans have made things that are all artificial, but that also bring human allergies. But we have the toxins, the strong toxins that are human produced, such as freon, plutonium dioxide. And this isn't about smelling those things, but to see clearly how humans have produced these things and to know that there also is this world of fragrance that can deeply rise our level of awareness. So in Sutra, Bodhisattvas ask Vimalakirti, now, how does the word honored one Shakyamuni explain the Dharma here? Vimalakirti said, the sentient beings of this land are obdurate and difficult to convert. And so the Buddha disciplines them by means of stern language. They thought that in this Saha world, because the people are so selfish, so egoistic, so stubborn, and so twisted, not innocent and simple. And for this reason, Shakyamuni had to teach strict and teach things very clearly with words. And this is how he puts it. He says, these are the hells, these are the animals, and these are the hungry ghosts. These are the places of difficulty, and these are the places where the foolish are born. These are licentious practices of the body, and these are the retributions for licentious practices of the body. These are licentious practices of the mouth, and these are the retributions from licentious practices of the mouth. These are the licentious practices of the mind, and these are the retributions for licentious practices of the mind. This is to kill sentient beings, and this is to retribution for killing sentient beings. This is to take what is not given, and this is the retribution for taking what is not given. This is the licentiousness, and this is the retribution for licentiousness. This is false speech, and this is the retribution for false speech. This is slander, and this is the retribution for slander. This is definition, and this is the retribution. This is defamation, and this is the retribution from defamation. This is meaningless speech, and this is the retribution from meaningless speech. These are desire and jealousy, and this is the retribution from desire and jealousy. These are anger and vexation, and this is the retribution from anger and vexation. These are heterodox views, and this is the retribution for heterodox views. This is parsimony, and this is the retribution of parsimony. This is immorality, and this is the retribution of immorality. Immorality is breaking the precepts. This is anger, and this is the retribution for anger. This is laziness, and this is the retribution for laziness. This is perturbation, and this is the retribution for perturbation. This is stupidity, and this is the retribution for stupidity. And in this way was taught how there are the 6 realms of hell beings: brutes, animals, humans, and heavenly beings. It has to be taught strictly here. Therefore, threateningly, that if we don't do things in a positive way, we will go to hell. So people can be directly informed, saying we have to realize wisdom, or we will go to hell as well. That if we don't do things that we are supposed to do, and we will get punished for it. That our body is impure, that our mind is impure, that our mouth is impure. And so Shakyamuni tells us again and again and points out the mistakes that our impure body, mind, and mouth cause. And he is very strict, because this is for liberating all beings. The Buddha awakened, and he was sitting under the Bodhi tree at that time. The very first thing he did was to go to teach his friends in the deer park. And the first sutra he offered them was that of the Kengon Kyo, or the Flower Garland Sutra. But nobody, not anybody, could understand at all. And that is why he went back to it and wrote the Agon Sutra, telling simply to do not bad things, but to do only good. For the Agon Sutra, following that, he wrote the Hodokyo, which has several in it, one of which is the Vimalakirti Sutra, the one we are reading here today, and telling how humans should truly live in their daily life. Then we can come to understand the meaning of the Hanyakyo, the state of mind of how we should live. Finally, when we have understood all the teachings of those sutras before it, then there is the final one. For those we have awakened deeply to live in the way of the Lotus Sutra. People could not understand the Buddha. They had no way of understanding what it was that he was teaching. and often found it so complicated and so difficult, but because people didn't want to get it. It was because it was inconvenient for them to understand and live in terms of what he was saying. That's why he decided to write all of these sutras, step by step, so there would be not anyone left out, and everyone could be included, clarifying their minds, and all people could become awakened by this without exception. For these reasons, the methods see so full of concepts and ideas and words. All of the 10 precepts telling us that we must not kill, not steal, not have sexual misconduct, that we can live in this way, to be able to see clearly and with detail how we had to carry ourselves. The 10 precepts are represented here, and next the 6 parameters. This is just like when someone is trying to train a wild horse, or it is like a monkey, a crazy monkey who has lost his way, or a cow who has gotten into a neighbor's vegetable patch and is eating everything. Since the minds of people are so difficult to convert, are like monkeys, one must use several types of dharma to control their minds, so that they can be disciplined. It is like elephants and horses who are stubborn and uncontrollable, who can only be disciplined by making them suffer to the bone. Because the sentient beings of this world are obdurate like this. Shakyamuni, who uses all sorts of painfully strict language to get sentient beings to enter into the Vinaya, says Sutra. We cannot have simple monochromatic teachings from Shakyamuni. It has to be different for all different phrases of all the different beings. Shakyamuni struggles greatly. People here are not well behaved like the bodhisattvas of the lens of Sutra. At least all 19 million bodhisattvas from Shuko were greatly amazed at the teaching challenge of Shakyamuni Buddha, saying it as if a university professor is teaching kindergarten children. If it was high school students, it might not be so bad, but to have to go down to a level of kindergarten and teach every single part of it so clearly, and they said this is established. In our everyday life, we have to follow these teachings, or we drift further from possibility of awakening. Most important is the way of purification and clarification of the mind. Sutra Vimalakirti said, the bodhisattvas of this land are resolute in their compassion for the sentient beings here. Truly, it is as you have said, thus in a single lifetime they benefit more sentient beings than you do in that country. In 100,000 kalpas of practice. Why? The bodhisattvas are deep and wide in their vow. They are not moved around by trifles, and in their own lives they continually strive to realize the teaching of the Buddha. In Sutra it's written, this Saha world has 10 excellent dharmas that are lacking in the other pure lands. What are these 10? The poor are attracted by charity. The transgressors are attracted by pure precepts. The angry are attracted by forbearance. The lazy are attracted by exertion. The perturbed are attracted by meditation. The foolish are attracted by wisdom. Those who experience the eight difficulties are saved by explanation of how to eliminate difficulties. Those who take pleasure in the Hinayana are saved by the teachings of the Maha. Those without merit may be saved by the various good fruits, and the liberation of sentient beings is constantly being accomplished by means of the four attractions. These are the 10. For those who have completely forgotten their path, remind them that this path is not about material things in the world. Rather, the true way of great joy is sharing various deeds among people and helping them become good friends together. The world then becomes complete, perfect, and peaceful. Being able to use their lives in this way, bodhisattvas fulfill a great need. In Sutra it's written, those bodhisattvas said, how many dharmas do bodhisattvas have to accomplish in their flawless practice in this world to be born in a pure life? Malakirti said, the bodhisattvas accomplish 8 dharmas in their flawless practice in this world so as to be born in a pure land. What are the 8? First, they benefit sentient beings without seeking recompense. They experience various sufferings in place of all sentient beings. Next, they donate all the merit from their actions to others. Next, in humility and non-interference, they are even minded toward all sentient beings. They view bodhisattvas as if they were Buddhas. They hear and do not doubt sutras they have not heard before. They do not become refractory toward Shravakas, and they are not jealous of the offerings received by others and do not become hotly over benefit to themselves. For this reason, there is a real purpose for the practice of bodhisattvas in our world. Through the 10 virtuous practices mentioned here, people who are immoral will be impressed when seeing people who show empathy. Not getting angry when they don't understand that you are doing, rather being seen as making efforts in bodhisattva practice. The bodhisattvas sit quietly even though they are confronted by unruly behavior. Everyone is amazed at how unmoved around they are by things. And by this practice, they can lead others. Everyone has so much ignorance, complaining rather than doing. Liberate from this, and a great reward is ours. Malakirti says that these people are unright. Given all of these examples, there are many things that are incomprehensible for people to understand in this world. Then they ask how they go about this. This is said that a lotus flower does not live in rarefied mountain air, but rather it comes from the mud and the swamp. When the mind is still, its great radiance is realized no matter where it is located and arises. Truly, when we look at how society is, if we take away all the scandals and all the terrible things in the newspaper, there is nothing left to read. For humankind to awaken, this is something that nobody is looking to as a solution. That anyone in this world would want to do that in this world. Nobody wants to do that in this world full of profit and personal benefit. in that word to work on liberating others from their pain and suffering. But because we know that pain, we know the need and make greatest efforts for that which are necessary in order to have a way to come to a place like this and do a session like this. To lead a path to liberate for others to come following us. For those screaming and tortured in this hell-like world, to drop down even a single silver thread to liberate others. This is what Vimalakirti is teaching us about the Bodhisattva's way of being, so we don't decrease our own efforts. Bodhisattvas are the greatest resource of the world, is what is being taught in this chapter. We are starting chapter 11, Practices of the Bodhisattva. In this chapter, the essence of the mystery of the non-dual is further developed. Sutra says, meanwhile, the Buddha had been explaining the Dharma in the garden of Amrapali. The land there suddenly expanded and became ornamented, and the entire assembly became gold in color. Ananda asked the Buddha, "Word honored one, due to what causes and conditions are these propitious responses? This place has suddenly expanded and become ornamented, and the entire assembly has become gold in color." Nanda was the attendant to the Buddha, and he was not with the group at Vimalakirtis. When the garden where the Buddha was teaching became gold and began growing larger and larger, Ananda asked the Buddha what was going on. Just then, as Sutra says, Vimalakirti said to Manjushri, "We should go together to see the Buddha, to revere him and make offerings along with the Bodhisattvas." Manjushri said, "Excellent, let us go, this is just the right time." Vimalakirti, using his luminous power, lifted the great congregations together with the lion seats in his right hand and proceeded to where the Buddha was. When he arrived there, he placed them on the ground and bowed his head to Buddha's feet, then circumambulated him 7 times. Holding his palms together single-mindedly, he then stood to one side. Vimalakirti has a house in Vasali, which is far from the mango grove of Amrapali, where the Buddha is teaching. Vimalakirti so uses his supernatural powers, taking all the bodhisattvas, all the Buddha's disciples, 84,000 other various people, all the heavenly gods, along with the bodhisattva who had come from Shugo, and placing the entire group on his right palm. He carried them all to meet the Buddha in the mango. Sutra says, the bodhisattvas all left their seats and bowed their heads to the Buddha's feet, then circumambulated him 7 times and stood to one side. The great disciples, Shakras, Brahmas, 4 heavenly kings, and so on, all left their seats to bow their heads to the Buddha's feet, and then stood to one side. In the appropriate manner of polite greetings in India, one circumambulated clockwise 7 times in Gasho. This huge group were all sitting in their glorious chairs had been brought along with Vimalakirti. This is the vast thing where now opens with the Buddha. The word honored one, according to custom, requested that bodhisattvas sit once again. They all followed these instructions and congregations that became settled. The Buddha said to Shariputra, have you seen what this bodhisattva, this great being, has done with his autonomous power? Yes, I have seen. What do you think about it? Shariputra said, well, honored one, I look upon what has been done as inconceivable. It is something that my mind cannot figure out and which my powers cannot even estimate. Shariputra was the disciple who was known to have the greatest wisdom of all the Buddha disciples. And while he was deeply awakened, he still had not yet made it up to the level of bodhisattva. Therefore, in this great play, which is a big commercial for the Mahayana, he will be shown in a bad light. Sutra says, then Ananda addressed the Buddha, word honored one, the fragrance I smell now is one I have never experienced before. What fragrance is this? The Buddha told to Ananda. This is the fragrance from the pores of those bodhisattvas. Then Shariputra said to Ananda, our pores are also emitting this fragrance. Ananda said, where does it come from? Shariputra said, this elder Vimalakirti brought the leftover meal from the Buddha of the host of fragrances country to this house for us to eat. And so all our pores are fragrant like this. Next, Ananda asked what is that fragrance. He has never smelled it before, and the Buddha says this is the fragrance, the leftovers of the meal of the bodhisattvas from the land of Shukla. Here, Ananda is saying how mysterious it is that food can awaken, and also that if our mind is pure, we can realize deep awakening and how important this is. From the land of Shukla, 90 million bodhisattvas have come from so far. Having received permission from the Koshaku Buddha of the land whose teaching they have been receiving, he also has given the permission to go to this Sahara to see with their own eyes and ears and gain the wisdom from doing that. The Shukla land is so fragrant that just from the fragrances alone one knows peace and wisdom. The Sahara is so full of problems and conflicts that the bodhisattvas of the Shukla land were given permission to go to the Sahara and witness Shakyamuni Buddha use his wisdom to awaken its people and to learn that wisdom to them. So they all went to the Sahara and directly experienced the abundant wisdom of Shakyamuni Buddha. Sutra says, Ananda said, when will the food be digested? Vimalakirti said, the energy of this food will be digested after 7 days. Vimalakirti then gives the virtues of this food. This sin is now at the mango grove. Buddha's work is to use everything that there is to liberate all of the people in the world. This wisdom is the fragrance. The greatest wisdom is that of the state of mind of pure emptiness. This is the state of mind that functions with no self-consciousness awareness at all. He asked the Buddha, what is this fragrance? And the Buddha answers that this is the fragrance from the body of Bodhisattva. Koshoku Butsu of the land of Shugo had given them fragrant food, and everyone who had partaken of the fragrant food had the same fragrance emanating from them. Ananda asked, how long this fragrance will last? Vimalakirti answers, this is a fragrance that will last until it is perfectly digested. And he answers that at first it takes at last 1 week. but the food digestion process varies from person to person because is it is a mind food. It's not a body food. People of wisdom who are completed will know this digestive process well. Unlike the material food, when this food becomes one with the person's mind, it is digested then. As it is when someone is studying knowledge, it only becomes it most useful when it's combined with wisdom. Not just knowledge, but wisdom with knowledge. Knowledge with wisdom. Like a book's contents can only become truly useful when we can function with it and experience with it. This is the fragrance of the fruit of wisdom, not of knowledge and material ideas. Buddha's knowledge comes to us in this way. The Buddha's wisdom comes to us internally, and knowledge and information comes to us externally. And they cannot be confused. Even if infinite knowledge is abundant, still, if it is received from external sources. And so, no matter how much we pile an external knowledge, and only when we gather the experience from it, then only we be satisfied. But also, those around us are able to be satisfied because of our experiencing, which goes with this knowledge and is able to turn into wisdom. Only if we see everything as equal and are able to see everything in this way, we can make the best use of this fragrant food. The dualistic world, not this world of pure and direct experience. We are frequently seeing, but hiding the real things, hiding it in our ideas about it, not perceiving it exactly as it is. To be able to see the flower as actually red. If we directly perceive, then it is very simple. We have to see the flower new and fresh each moment. But because we think that we already understood in a moment ago, we are not able to experience the true wonder of this direct perception and amazement of what we see. Seeing each thing fresh, as if for the first time, we do not add thoughts onto it. When we let go of those thoughts, then we are able to realize the direct perception and let go of our mental ideas. If a person is still unripe, then they will be able to digest this food only when they ripen this wisdom. Sutra says, also Ananda, if a Shravaka who has not yet entered the primary status of Hinayana enlightenment eats this food, it will only be digested after enters the primary status. If someone who has already entered the primary status eats this food, it will only be digested after his mind is emancipated. If someone who has not generated the intention to follow the Mahayana eats this food, it will only be digested after he has generated that intention. If someone who has already generated the Mahayana intention eats this food, it will be digested after he has attained forbearance of the birthlessness of dharmas. If someone who has already attained forbearance of the non-arising of dharmas eats this food, it will only be digested after he has reached his penultimate rebirth. It is as if there were a medicine called superior flavor that is digested only after all the poisons in the body of the person who takes it have been eliminated. Like this food eliminates all the poisons of the afflictions and then it's digested. We do Zazen and we forget our surroundings, our body, our experience thinking. We become one with the Zen dog to ripen and go beyond even our ultimate determination. This is an excellent state, but we have to pierce beyond all of this and realize perfect enlightenment, or we cannot give birth to the true functioning so that we can be of use to all society. If our awareness is complex and confused, we have to realize, return to its clarity to work in the best possible way. And the same is the true of a person who let go of their extreme thinking and everything that they do and hear is fresh and new. If we are tired in our being, in every single bit of it, we have no ability to freshly see and act. Doing Zazen, we become fresh and new and sharp in our perspective. Zazen is not about guarding or holding onto a dark, black state of mind. People often mistake such a withdrawal, discreet outlook as detachment. We have to be bright and clear in our Zazen. If our life is one of clarity, then we are not moved around by anything, whatever people do. We see it and know it directly, but are not moved around by it, and this is liberation. Our relationships with others are bright and clear, and this is liberation. One who has awakened will naturally want to share that joy with others, and those who are unwilling to share it with others have not experienced true awakening. One who has truly awakened will realize this and function from it and be able to bring it to the aid of all beings. If they still hold on to anything of a small self, then the true functioning cannot yet come forth. We have to be responsible and go beyond our own self-referencing ideas. We cultivate complete tolerance with no separate between self and other. Only any separation between oneself and other people has to be let go of. And this is called samadhi. Not being dark, hard, and rigid, but be compassionate with reinvigorate and function. Not thinking about whether or not we will be able to do this. Instead, seeing clearly and immediately that there is no division to maintain. The ripened mind of a Buddha experiences every single person as their own child and everywhere they go as their home. What everyone brings to them, no matter the kind of person, they are able to see them in this way. The Diamond Sutra describes various eyes with which people see their world. The first is the naked eye, the physical eye that sees things in their material form. The second is the heavenly eye, which sees deeper than external appearances. This is like the mother who sees and at one glance of the child has had a bad day at school when they walk into the door. This is the same with everything that we see. All of it is this world, and to be able to see all of it as phenomena, see it as it is. This is our eye of wisdom. We see the various stages of life change and progress from being born to a living life to be sick and dying. All of them separate stages, all of them complete as they, but seeing how they change going through a continuous process and we catch the true eternal in any one of the moments of the process. The whole passing by experience, the whole passing by experience, all of it's known well as phenomena, yet each and every moment of the phenomena is eternal. The Dharma, I can be seen in school teacher with badly behaved pupil. who in each exchange works in the best possible way to give this child the teaching they need. See all things in their clearest way and all things as equal and trusted. And finally, there is that eye that sees all things from the place of compassion. This is the eye of truth that can and is able to see whole picture and not divide into parts. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them. Desires are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to become. Zazen instructions. Zazen instructions. Here. Yeah.
We'll see when he realizes it.
Welcome on introduction to Zazen. So maybe the first question, which usually I ask myself, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? So what are we doing here? So whatever we are doing here, each activity, each gesture, it has some function. It's not the idle thing or completely out of blue. Um, it's on the purpose. So maybe this space here we kind of little improvising because it's a new space for us. But usually in the monasteries, every detail of this building, every moment in the schedule is designed to support some particular process. And what is this process? And this is something that actually was started by Shakyamuni Buddha 2600 years ago. And he had a curiosity about one question. This question was, what is suffering? What's causing suffering? And is it possible to end suffering? And if it's possible to end suffering, how? More or less, this is Four Noble Truths. That was his first teaching that he gave. We can come back to this later. I don't want to go very quick story to say. So, so there were some students who got interested in this person because he was kind of shining, emanating with some kind of audience, and they got interested in him. So, and they said, "Oh, we want the same freedom as you have." So they formed a group of followers. So he took them as their students, and to live in harmony in the society, they set some rules. And there was about, I don't know the exact number, about 400 rules. It's called Vinaya, and they're called following rules. They're like rules like that we shouldn't eat after noon. That they shouldn't work. They shouldn't be married, for example. When Buddhists went to India, from India to China, the way how they lived didn't survive completely because in India it was possible to practice just baking in the morning, getting some food, having this food, and practicing afternoon. In China, there was a culture of work, so whoever didn't work was considered some kind of parasite. So this model didn't work. So So people who wanted to practice Buddhism, they had to work. So since then, the work practice became a very important part of this practice. We don't have work practice during this retreat. Some elements of it are maybe food preparation or cleaning after the food. China was also the place that Taoism and Confucianism was very strong. So, and Buddhism, this teaching is it's not something that can be imitated, copied. So, it never worked exactly to copy one to one the same rules, traditions. So it's not only because the external society was so resistant, didn't have understanding for it. It's also because this process I was talking about is the process not about looking like someone, but it's process of becoming completely yourself, completely authentic. So it's not something you can learn from hearing. It's something what you have to learn from experiencing it, discovering. Everyone has to discover it for his own. So this Buddhist got some adaptations to Chinese culture, and later it went from China, where it was known as Chan, to Japan and Korea, where it was known as Zen. And in Japan, there are two branches of Zen, and one branch is Rinzai, which we practice here, and the second branch is Soto. So there are not huge differences between ways how Rinzai and Soto looks like and practices. There are, there are some differences in how eating looks like, some organization differences, but the idea and direction is similar. A little bit different tools. In Rinzai, we work more with koans. In Soto, it's more work practice is very important. There are places where most of the time is spent on work practice and working. And also ceremonies are very important in Soto. And in Rinzai, it's a little different technique. It's more like pushing people towards insight, towards realization. In Soto is more gentle. So there's a saying that Rinzai is like, it's when Dharma is like a storm. It starts suddenly, completely get wet, and that's how Rinzai is. In Soto, it's like more like walking into a mist. You walk into the mud, and you don't know even when you got wet. So that's kind of more or less the differences. Yeah, I would like to come back to this process, just to give you for now the rough overview. Most teachers, what they say is it's not something that can be learned. It's not process of doing something. It's rather a process of undoing something. So most teachers say that we actually all already know it. The problem is that we can't get it completely. We can't act like we knew it. It's because this kind of obvious truth for us is covered by many thoughts, desires, emotions, and it creates such a noise that this knowledge of how things are is just covered with all these thoughts, all these emotions, and everything that's happening in our mind. Yeah, I have so and it's very easy to in this noise to have some kind of misleading understanding about things. And there's an example which I like very much. Uh, it's the example that you know in the past people were perfectly fine with the idea that the Earth is flat. You can generally do most of things having this concept that the Earth is flat, and you don't need anything more sophisticated generally. So it's a good, like very practical idea. And so, uh, so, so when someone, for example, wanted to had an idea, okay, let's get to the moon. There was this idea, oh, so we need to build a tower or maybe a big ladder to get there, because it was the actions that were based on this understanding. Uh, for example, if there was someone there who would be able to fly to the sky and see the Earth from some distance, this person clearly would see that Earth is a globe, it's a sphere. And when this person came back on this Earth, this person wouldn't be able again to think about Earth as flat. And this person would be able to see, oh no, we have to do something more advanced than just building towers to get to the moon. And that's almost, how I understand this process that we need this real experience. And just to see how the truth is, then something is arising, then some kind of wisdom. This wisdom is called prajna, paramita. And based on this wisdom, on this, we just see this and we just can't act other way, or pretend that, oh, the earth is still flat. Yeah, we can do more adequate things. And this wisdom can be used, in many areas, like working environment, society, politics, of course. Yeah, so I think we need this wisdom more and more. And as Kurt mentioned yesterday, that the world is becoming more and more tense and difficult place, and we may expect that more difficult things are coming. So I believe that what we are doing here is probably the most appropriate. I don't know. I'm not sure if reaction is a good word for it, but action maybe. Okay, coming back to this process. So what we want to do, we want to create an environment for our mind to purify. And to know how to do it is also to know what we can ask, question other way. What does make our mind confused? So when we ask the question this way, we will know what we should avoid. And for example, it was Shakyamuni's discovery that desires are something that make us confused, and that our mind is filled with ideas. All this, this poison like greed, anger, ignorance is something that leads to this confusion. Talking is very stimulating. So when we talk, that that stimulates act of talking itself. It's it brings to life the person who is talking. So it's like building it. And also another thing which I discovered in my practice that strongly kind of creates this constructs and tensions are situations when I need to make decisions. So that's why retreats like this or monasteries are organized in a very simple way, and people just try to do as little as possible. It's because they want to create this environment when our mind or try to avoid the word brain or nervous system. When we are stimulated, and the most efficient situation for the most beneficial discovered is sitting meditation. That's why that's what Zen actually means. Zen comes from the word Chan, Chinese Zen, and Chan comes from the word jhana, sitting meditation. And the sitting meditation is it's a technique that has been experimented for at least 2,600 years. They started sitting and meditate way before Shakyamuni Buddha, so I'm sure it's a couple more thousands than that. So there's a huge wisdom we can use now that was research that was developed by thousands, millions of people who devoted their lives completely to this process of discovery. And they passed this knowledge from teacher to the student became a teacher, and so on. Of course, there's a lot of knowledge that got lost, but there's still a lot of knowledge that we can benefit from. It's just a huge laboratory when you think about it. Huge also family, because people who practice create some type of family. It's a different type of relationship. And so something that I'm amazed with in the sitting position is that sitting position itself is making some process, and it's also very much in tune with the physiology. For example, why sitting, why not standing? Why not laying down? When we lay down, our body has natural tendency to fall asleep. When we are standing, there's a tendency to action. We're on our feet are working, so we get this feedback from our feet, our leg. And this is when we are walking, doing something. So sitting, we are immobilized in some way. We are grounded, and we are not asleep. So the perfect trade-off between stabilization and being active. Because what we don't want to fall asleep. Although there are practices uh, of say, meditating during the sleep, especially Tibetan Buddhism is very interested in this process. I will let myself say this digression because I love these practices. They believe that it's really very important to be present when dying because after death, there's a chance for you to decide where you go in the next reincarnation. So what they are getting ready for their whole life is to get these skills of staying present in order when they die, they could consciously decide what they want to do next. And they use the experience of falling asleep as a training situation because it's the closest to death. Because when we fall asleep, we kind of easily lose the control. We easily lose the presence. We are in a completely different realm. So they do practices like they try to do like conscious sleeping. And at Great Power, where I stay, every summer we practice sleeping practice. So it's really a great adventure, and it's really very interesting. And since then, I really see a lot of similarity to falling asleep and this confusion I told you before. Because, in the sleep, it's so easy to have this concept, I'm a lion jumping from one mountain to another and flying. And it's completely sane in the sleep. I forgot myself. Yeah. And I'm not aware of it. It's not true until I wake up. So, yeah, usually, how do we know that we're sleeping right now? We don't know. There's no tool to check it. After we wake up, that was a stupid dream. But when we sleep, it's completely, everything makes sense. Actually, we can build it this way that makes sense. So, probably that's why the analogy, awakening is from this analogy from waking up from a dream. So we are living now life, and this practice is about waking up from this life and seeing, wow. And when I told you about my story last time, I thought, I had many confused ideas. What's the right thing? And I was like, wow, no, waking up. So, but it's not what we can do by putting our effort. It's not like a work hard in school, do more, learn more, remember more. It doesn't work like that. There is a story about a student who really wanted to learn fast, and teacher told him, okay, go to the forest and you can think about everything, but don't think about monkeys. Try really hard. Don't think about monkeys. Then, I could think only about monkeys. It's like it's because it's how it works. When we put more energy, that creates more stimulation. And whereas also another good metaphor for this process is like in muddy water. You can't clean the water by stirring it. You just have to give it time to settle down. And all effort goes not to kind of doing something with this water, but to creating the situation that this water can stay still for long enough to purify itself. And that's why we here try to have such an aesthetic life as possible, as conditions allows and our skills allows. So coming back to sitting situation, and forms. So to organize the life in the monastery or retreat, we have these forms and different roles, and there was no time to do them, so I will try to do it. But first, I would like to go through the sitting itself from like a physiological. So we have sitting as the best trade-off, but so we have three possibilities to do Zazen. First is sitting on the cushion, second is sitting on the chair, and the third one is standing. So at Kahama we had we had a woman who was standing whole session, and that's also a very fine position. Although there is the problem with the standing that you are more active, but I don't have much experience with standing myself. But sometimes for many people, it's a good option when they fall asleep and they really don't want to move and to activate themselves. They decide, okay, I will be standing now. Sometimes for some people, it's the option to just change position because during session we this like 10 rounds. So a good strategy is to change the position because when you sit always the same way on one side, for example, you always stress the same parts of your body, and over years, this micro harms they accumulate together. That's generally that's why I have my problem with my knees. There was never a moment that was like I hurt them in one day. It was just constantly sitting, and my body wasn't ready for that. So it was just too much. And unfortunately, talking about harming yourself, it's very often that long-term practitioners have some knee implants, and it's good to learn lesson from that. And it's because there's some tendency in this meditation work to sit on the cushion. It's because it's traditional in the East. However, there's a difference between Eastern people and Western people. For Eastern people, this is the normal thing to sit on the floor. They sit on the floor all the time since being a baby. We sit a lot in a chair, and it changes our muscles. So, for example, the muscles here and they get shorter for us. So, I'm not able to move my leg far enough because these muscles don't allow me to open this. So, this shortening these muscles, it causes that when we do kind of lotus-like situation, this leg rotates inside. And we have here a joint. And when it rotates, the joint rotates like this. And it hurts here. I think it's called meniscus. And that's how very often he is injured during sitting. So if you spend days sitting like this, it can be like some type of inflammation. And finally, you can later do something rapid and sudden, and it can hurt the knee. So my advice to be careful. I decided to sit on the chair because I like walking. there was a time I couldn't walk, and it's really very humbling not being able to walk. And, and on the other side, it's very, yeah, I'm very grateful that I can walk. Okay. Can I get a conclusion? There's a very good instruction to Zazen given by Dogen. Dogen is a very important figure in Soto Zen because he's the founders of Soto lineage in Japan. He lived in the 13th century. The text is Fukan Zazengi, and our Roshi referred to this text during the last session. Okay, so we sit on cushions like this. Usually there's a mat to make things soft, especially for our ankles. And there are two types of, there are different types of cushion. I will tell you about. One is like a buckwheat, it's like grain inside, and different people prefer different types. The second type is kapok, and this is important trick. You know, it's very important to some people to maintain it because it can dance very quickly. So, and I've seen many monasteries that are just beaten flat like pancakes. You know, so after time, so some monasteries it's even a form that after standing up from the cushion, you should do some kind of maintenance of the cushion. So you press it like this and rotate it. And it's just to break the fibers because they create some kind of blobs together. And these blobs sometimes, you know, like beads. And when you sit on it, this one bead, for an hour, you know exactly where it is located. It's just, you don't know what, but this, okay. So the original instruction is to sit in half lotus. So
General instruction is to sit in full lotus. It's from Yakuja, Kazenji, and Dogen developed this.
okay, so Fukan Zazengi is half lotus. And half lotus, I can't do it, but I will show you the idea. This goes to the hip, and this knee should be on the floor. As you see, it's far from me, and that's why I can sit this, but I've never sat around in this position, so I'll just kill myself.
So I will maybe show you. If you would be able, probably young guys can be able, it's important not to sit like this or like this, but you must put and try to put your leg here. I will show you. The important thing is also not to bend the knee like that and put it like that, but first you put it here, then you do the rotation, then you do not harm your knees. It's the most important thing. But usually people start to just, they got used to half lotus and they do like that quickly, and then you are bending the knee in not the angle which it's supposed to be bent. And in that moment you really hurt it. So first of all you should do like that and then rotate it in a hip. And the important thing is to put this side here. It's quite deep. And at the beginning it's uncomfortable, but the important thing is that when you put like that, it blocks in some way your hips. That's why the full lotus is the best, because if you block your legs in a full lotus, you can forget about them and you will not make tension. So I not make the contractions when it hurts. It's only about just getting it completely relaxed. And in that way, you can just stand up any moment.
it's just more easy to say because you are blocked, you are unmoved. But it's better. Roshi told that it's better not to try full lotus when you are after 30 years old. 30, something like that. But I started after I was 30.
Okay, but there is also a more common position. It's called Burmese. So one leg goes towards your elbows, and the second one goes in front of it. And it's more or less like this. The same situation, the knee swinging. So it's good that your legs are fully grounded because we want to be stable. You know, my observation, not only mine, but many people's observation is that, you know, when you are sitting on something wobbly, your mind becomes wobbly. So being stable kind of extends this physical stability, the mental stability. So many people, what they do, they put some supports under the knee just to stabilize this and they can reach the ground.
And many people make a mistake because sometimes when they have some problems on one leg, they just put one cushion. And in that way, they are getting more and more in asymmetry, and it will turn in the years with problems with your back, and you will always get like that. So you must always search for the stability and symmetry in your inner being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is, you should put something, of course, it's good to have something ready for this. It's just a demonstration. Okay, next important thing is the height of the sitting. The idea is that your knees should be below your hip because otherwise it creates some problems for lower backs. It's really difficult to sit straight, or it's just a lot of work when the knees are up. And it's a lot of work with lower back to deal with it. Jurek Jagodzienion has been practicing, teaching yoga for 30 years. He says that 40 years. He says that the cross leg is the worst. And I've done a couple of rounds like this in my life, and yeah, it's. But you know, the problem is with the stability here. Also, you know, see my knees now are very high, so I will have to add something to ply up to have my hips above my knees. And also, if someone really wants to sit this position, it's good to add something to stabilize knees and go at higher in this position. Another thing, you know, very often legs fall asleep. You know what it means? Legs fall asleep.
Like numb?
Numb, yes. And it is because of this edge.
Okay.
Yeah, there's arteria here. So yeah, and it's very often because there are also this hard things inside these blobs too. But sometimes, you know, just moving a centimeter back or forth is of course, when we sit Zazen, we want to not to move too much. And there's another trick. Sometimes we feel, oh, it's very in pain. And if I only could move, it would be easier. It is not. Because more you move, more you kind of tension generate. And something that worked for me was just to stay still as long as possible and just stay with pain. You know, it needs some kind of practice and skills to know Yeah, and there's always, I think there are no strict rules. Always do that. There are some, I would say, guidances, directions, but you always need to use your own wisdom. What's the right thing to do? Another option for sitting, it is just, this type of seating. Okay. So, yeah, some
Says that in
Yeah.
Japanese.
it says, yeah. And yeah, we put the cushion on the edge and it's sitting like this.
It's a very good way of sitting. Very stable and easy for everyone, especially for women. If you will be advising to someone, uh, that you should advise this one because women can take more harder cushion and then even sit on two, and then you are stabilized by the knees. But it's not good for someone who has got problems.
Yeah, and it's really problem for me, especially what causes the problem is the feet position. Because if I rotate my feet like that, can you imagine what's happening in my joint? It turns, and the knee is just like a hinge. It's not like arm that can go any direction. It likes only going this direction. It doesn't like to bend in any other plane. So this position actually hurts my knees, so I don't use it. But yeah, so if someone sits in this position and feels okay, knees are in pain, probably it's the most probable is that the feet goes off in one direction. Very often we sit seiza without cushion. And this is like this. And, choke up if it was seiza. No,
Sorry, but
sorry.
and waiting for the Roshi's talk at the end of the session is says the last talk of the Roshi during Saturday
Oh,
is
yeah.
Seiza.
Continue on sitting.
So it's 10 minutes to
Should I wrap up?
3. Yeah, I think if you just please finish about the positions and we will continue next.
Okay, so maybe I will stop the position here because there's still the upper body to cover and chair. So I will just finish right now and see you tomorrow.
So 5 minutes break and then Kurt turns for MBSR.
Start with some sitting.
As you wish. You are the best.
Kawa. Go. Little.
Później. Teraz już
A.
zrobimy później. Dziękuję. I've already told guys that we will now do question and answers very much today. There will be an hour of free time
After.
after your lessons,
Mhm.
and we will go to the shop.
I'll go to the store.
You want also to go? If you want. Up to you.
And I can keep mine short also. As soon as we're all here, we'll just move into movement practice. So let's do some warm-ups today. Swinging the torso and letting the arms just swing. And if it's comfortable, tapping the shoulders. And chest. just winding down. So dropping the chin forward and just gently rolling the head around in one direction. Really tuning in the sensations. And then when you're ready, reversing, going the other way. Okay. Making some circles with the shoulders, if that's comfortable for you. And then reversing directions. Okay. With the hands on the hips, making some small circles in one direction. And then if you like, letting the circles grow a little bigger. And then reversing, starting really small again. Really tuning in the sensations of each movement. Letting the circles grow bigger. Okay. And then like we did yesterday, bringing the feet close together and resting the hands, not pushing down, but just resting the hands on the knees and making some circles in one direction. And reversing. One more little warm up. Just tapping up the top of the arm, off the bottom of the arm. And just the torso, all down the legs. With the fists coming around the backs of the legs, tapping up small of the back. Taking a few moments to settle in with the mountain pose, the standing position, feet parallel, shoulder width apart, hanging kind of loosely like a puppet if there was a string from the head holding us up, but otherwise we're hanging kind of loose like a puppet. Maybe if we go through this sequence, each day I'll have them in mind by the end. Some of them may go with us. Kind of scanning the body with awareness, noticing any subtle tension that we can choose to let go of. So mist rising from the lake. In breath with the upward movement, out breath with the downward. And once more. Opening the heart at the top of the mountain. And one more time. Parting the clouds. casting the rainbow. Once more each way. Feeling that little stretch kind of at the edge of what is comfortable, not too much. Arms back to the sides. And as we're standing here, even without any motion, seeing if you can find any sensations, residual sensations in the body. Maybe just the pressure of the weight of the body on the soles of the feet, or tingling in the hands. Heat in some part of the body. Okay, then making a fist with the right hand, dropping the stone from the heart. Just letting the arm fall with the weight of gravity. All the stones we carry around in our mind or in our heart, that in this moment we could choose to let fall away. And one more time. Flying the wild goose. And once more, flying the wild goose. Gathering the fragrance of the earth. might imagine that you're pulling the fragrance, vital energy of the earth, and pulling it into and through your body. And back. Gathering the energy from the heavens. Once more. This time, as the hands pass over the lower belly, placing the palms one on top of the other over the lower belly. The tanden, this is a very important part of the body in the breathing and in the settling of energy in Zazen. And then dropping the arms back down. Gathering the energy, gathering the chi from the ocean. The word chi and qigong means something like vital energy. And drawing the arms back to the sides. And riding the waves. As a fisherman, I've spent a lot of time on the ocean in the Gulf of Alaska with really big waves, and learning how to ride the waves is crucial to being able to do that work one more time this way. And the other foot forward. closing with embracing the tiger. And coming home to the mountain. One more time. Let's pull back in. What time is it now?
I think that's still 20 minutes.
Midtime. So I want to do another fairly short, 15 minutes or so of guided meditation. Again, sort of giving a flavor for the way one might present meditation, sitting meditation in MBSR. Noticing the shift in positions from standing to sitting. And taking a moment to feel the body sitting here. Maybe beginning with the whole body. And then finding points of contact between the body and the floor or the body and the chair. Feeling those points of contact. And again, as we did in the Qigong, scanning the body, noticing how it is now, noticing if there's any shift in how the body feels from doing the exercises. And again, noticing if there's any points of tightness or tension that we notice in the body, and noticing where it is in the body, the quality of the sensations, if there's tightness or tension. Maybe very subtle. And just softening around that area that maybe has some tightness. Seeing if we can let it drop away. And as you feel yourself beginning to settle into your sitting position, taking a moment now to see if you can find the breath in the body. Find the felt sense of the body breathing. Noticing where it's most prominent for you in this moment. And just resting attention there. Maybe in the belly or the chest or the nostrils. So just for now, noticing, knowing that you're breathing in while you're breathing in. And knowing that you're breathing out while you're breathing out. Feeling that. If it's hard to find the breath in the body, just noticing that it's not so easy to find the breath in the body for you in this moment. Being okay with that too. I want to invite you to picture in your mind a waterfall coming off a high ledge in the mountains. Beautiful waterfall. In the spring, when the snow is melting, the waterfall gets really big. The river gets really full and torrents of water going off the ledge. And in the summer and fall, maybe the river is down, the flow is smaller, the waterfall is smaller. When we get caught in our thoughts or believe the thoughts we're having and think we are the thoughts we're having, which is so common for us to do, it's like being caught in the river, being carried over that ledge with the waterfall constantly. Caught in the rapids of our thinking mind, not even knowing we're caught, and then we're carried over the waterfall. But when we wake up and remember that we're not our thoughts, we have thoughts, but we're not our thoughts, then we can shift and we can become the rock face of the mountain over which the water is flowing. Stable, anchored, relaxed. So just watching now, watching the thoughts flowing by and carried off the ledge, but not carried over the ledge by them anymore. And we might notice while we're sitting, doing our sitting practice, that sometimes we get carried back into the river and over the ledge. There we go, caught by our thoughts again, lost in thoughts of the past or the future. But that little shift of just noticing we're caught in our thoughts and coming home to the mountain. Once again, becoming the mountain itself that can just watch the thoughts going by, not pushed and pulled around by them in the same way at all. And also not seeing it as a problem that we get pulled back into the river, carried over again, because we all do that. It's the nature of mind to get caught in thinking. So it's not a problem or a failing, it's just we have this chance to notice and remember that we're bigger than our thoughts. And we can come home to the mountain and watch them from a different place. And then when you're ready, bringing attention back to the breath, just riding the waves of breath, feeling the body breathing, knowing we're breathing while we're breathing. Even though I don't have a bell, imagine there's a bell ringing now. We can open our eyes when we're ready. Bring our attention back to being in this room together. But once again, noticing what that was like for you. Noticing what that brief period of guided sitting was like for you. How it feels in the body now. Thank you. So that was a kind of condensed, doing more talking. I would leave more space in between, but that's an example of doing what we're doing when we're doing Zazen, but putting some maybe handholds on it. You know, images from nature. There's lots of different images you can call upon from nature. And then just the reminder, which I'm talking to myself when I do this, the reminder that, oh, that's right, I'm not my thoughts. But I sure spend a lot of time on questioning, just habitually believing that the thought is true just because I'm having it rather than some kind of energy that passes through the mind and goes and as another one arises. So that shift, and I think with MBSR, it's geared toward people who are not Buddhists and are not necessarily religious. They might be, but to try and make these tools accessible and demystify them, not so much mystery in them. So I don't know if anybody has any comments before we break. Questions based on what we just did.
Is this part of something larger, or will you just go and do this? Like,
Yeah, no, it's part of something larger. I mean, in MBSR in particular, there's a lot of different, what they call mindfulness-based interventions. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds of them, I don't know. But MBSR was the first one, and many of the other ones are built on the same model. Now, we could talk more about this another time, maybe, but just really briefly. So there's an 8-week program where 2.5 hours, 1 day a week or 1 night a week, you're together. And a practice will be introduced and guided. The first 2 weeks, you don't do any meditation. You do something called the body scan, where you're just lying on the floor on a yoga mat, and the teacher will take you through 45 minutes of noticing sensations in just your big toe, your toes, the left foot.
Can you guide us in one of these?
What's that?
Can you guide us in one of these communities?
Sure. That's a good idea. So the first 2 weeks is all about reestablishing contact with the body, because so many of us don't, have lost the circuitry of, so we miss really important messages from our body. And then just slowly introducing like 5 minutes of guided sitting, similar. Where awareness of breath is a big part of it. Yoga, and then you practice that at home each night or each day, in theory. So if you do all the homework, and there's CDs, or there's like my voice doing the same practices that people can listen to at home. If you do that every day, that's a lot of practice. And then in the next class, you talk about what you noticed in your home practice. And there's a lot you work with, just all the usual suspects. And then toward the end, like on the 7th week, you have a full day silent retreat. That's guided. You go through all the different practices. But for most people, it's their first time ever doing anything like that, concentrated a retreat, and finding out that you're capable of doing that. And then you really start to connect the dots on how this works. So it's a beautifully crafted program. It really is. And I have had students go on to become ordained Zen. That's their introduction to meditation, but then they find their way. But everybody benefits from it. And most of them are not people who would ever darken the door of a meditation center. So it's very clever that way. That the hook is stress reduction, but really, and it does, give us tools for working with stress, but really we're working with our whole life in a different way. Right? So, anyway. Do you need another person to go with you to this?
Only if you want to go.
What's that?
Only if you want to go.
Okay. Take a nap. Thank you for going to the store for us. I can.
Yeah, I will go.
Okay.
Okay. We can discuss. I will buy one loaf of bread because there is rest from yesterday, and cheese because I think it's almost used up. And still we got the yogurts and the fruits. So I propose to make these fruits clean, and then everyone will get a set of fruits with yogurt and then the loaf, so that we will use this fruits before they will waste.
Maybe we will take another kind of cheese, like white cheese.
White cheese, gold cheese.
It's white. It's just not so fantastic. It will be good with the yogurt.
Okay. But you don't mean the
Coach.
avocado.
Coach.
Yeah.
Flour.
Is that okay?
I eat avocado.
It's good.